Hi, everybody. This is Dean Val with Dean Kevin and Ryan, and we are here in the environmental awareness call or meeting or group that we talk about the environment and all the good things it has for us as it supports us on this planet. But unfortunately, people are destroying it. So we're helping people become aware of what's going on with all this. And we're not political or religious or spiritual or anything. We're just making sense of what's going on. And this is our survival here. We need to have clean air, clean food, and clean water. So this is all part of just waking up to what's going on around us. About reforestation. This is in Senegal, in Africa. To me, it's inspiring because it's just people doing something. They're not just talking, they're doing something about the environment. You see all the politicians talking about this and that, but they're not really doing anything. They're not really being real about what's going on. They're just paying lip service and even misleading people with information that's not correct. So these people are actually doing something on the ground, in the field, and they're getting it done. There's a lot of people doing things in the world. So again, when we get up to speed with our funding, we'll contact these people. A lot of them have the infrastructure already going on to do these huge projects that are needed to help the planet. They have the manpower and the know-how, and we will be working with them to help the planet out. So this is, to me, it's a very good inspiration, seeing people like this that are doing something. And again, this fellow had no support from any government. Actually, they're trying to stop him. So this is what we have to deal with too, all the government agencies and restrictions and bureaucracies, and because they don't want the planet saved. So it just takes agreement, enough people agreeing to helping out, doing something, just do something, and then it'll multiply. Okay, so I'll give it over to Kevin, or do you have any comments on this one, Ryan or Kevin first? Mangrove trees are little like shrubs, the trees, and they grow, they can handle salty conditions. And geez, I'm not even sure what they're used for, but apparently they're planting them. Rice fields, they help the rice fields too. But I didn't really get a chance to look at what their uses are, the function. But it's green. So, okay, so any comments on this one?
Well, obviously, it is all about supporting the all-natural environment that supports us. And it's quite interesting recently that it has been said that the quantity and the volume of trees in the world, the natural environment, is just barely enough to sustain a life on the planet. And there's just barely enough oxygen that all the plants and trees produce to sustain life, because obviously, it's oxygen, what we breathe, and carbon dioxide back and forth. And were the oxygen levels to fall any further, a lot of people are saying, we are talking about spiraling into an extinction event. So any less biomass of trees than we have now, which is literally right on the brink of that which is required to sustain life, and we're looking at a very serious situation indeed. And so that's why it's very important for all these individuals, where able and where realistic, where it is realistic to do so, to intervene and replace what's been lost. And like the individual was saying, all the trees being destroyed, and of course a lot of that is purposely done because of all the money that can be generated through the industries, and also a lot of the fires that we've come to hear about also are purposely created by the controllers to wipe out vast swathes of the forests, as we saw with Australia, for example. And Because also it was said as well that as they intend to encase the planet in 5G, anything naturally occurring, like plants and trees, they actually naturally absorb these lethal frequencies and they mitigate the effects. And so part of their game, of course, is to clear out anything that would mitigate the 5G infrastructure they want to put in place. And of course, also, we destroy the natural environment, and all levels of life are impacted. Everything dies. No food is available for any species. And of course, the result of that would be a completely inorganic world, as nothing organic could survive. That's just what I wanted to say in regards to that anyway.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, everything looks normal. I mean, in most places, everybody's doing their business as normal, but behind it all, it's very fragile. The natural environment right now is very, very fragile in terms of the balance and the support that it gives us. So like you say, it's already at a tipping point. It's already going down, but let's see what we can do. You know, that's why we're here, to wake up. So you have some foraging information. How do we forage so we don't poison ourselves and kill ourselves before it's too late, before the environment kills us? I mean, the poisoned white environment. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in about 10 or so years ago, I used to be quite interested in foraging, and did a lot of a few courses where we would sign up with various individuals, and they would take us through little foraging excursions, which we can identify all the various consumable and edible weeds that were available, because a lot of these videos we've been talking about the food forests and the self-sufficient communities, which are of course also very important and essential for our survival, but often what is overlooked is the food that is readily available that most people just step across or disregard and not realise that is in fact edible, and that would be all the various weeds that are available. Because as I said, it's quite amusing because I see a lot of these sort of post-apocalyptic type movies where everybody's raiding houses and trying to find what tins of food are left, and they're growing their fruits and vegetables, but then they're walking through huge masses of forests where all these, I said, various weeds are just there that can be eaten and can pretty much sustain a life without even the necessity of growing fruits and vegetables if necessary. And so I did a little research on the stinging nettle, and so I shall read this out here. Stinging nettle, the most nutritious plant on Earth. Sourced from the YouTube channel Learn Your Land. There are stinging hairs all throughout the stinging plant, mainly on the stem, the leaf petioles, and leaf surfaces, on the top and bottom, depending on the species. These hairs act like hypodermic needles when you brush up against them. When these plants are mature, the tip breaks off and pierces the skin, and injects a chemical cocktail of various compounds, various acids, and neural transmitters injected into the skin, like histamine, serotonin, formic acid, that can cause irritation. Stinging nettle belongs to the family Urticaceae, and worldwide there are about 2,600 species. These plants are described as herbaceous, with simple leaves that are opposite each other, but there are variations. Stinging nettle is a perennial plant that can grow to be rather large, can reach heights of 2 meters, which is 6.5 feet, and can get even larger. It grows in dense colonies, connected underground. The leaves aren't smooth or fine like you'd find in a birch tree, but serrated and coarse. You will see shades of green and purple, and the purple is very prominent when the plant is young, especially the underside of the leaves. You tend to find it in sunny open areas, frequently along streams and creeks and other wet places, in farms, fields, fence rows, and disturbed areas like empty lots. There is another version, the wood nettle, which typically grows in the understory. It likes partial shade or shaded areas. And you have the false nettle, which doesn't have stinging hairs. Stinging nettles are one of the most nutritious plants in the habitat where it grows. Without the stinging hairs, the plant would have been obliterated by herbivores immediately, as animals will recognize the nutritional benefits of plants, and that is the reason for its stinging properties, a defense mechanism. Stinging nettle is high in protein, about 30% to 40% of the mass of the leaves. Also a high source of iron, calcium, magnesium, carotenoids, and the plant is one of the richest sources of vitamin C that is available in the wild. About 238 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams of tissue, compared to the orange, which is about 52 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams of tissue. So gram for gram, stinging nettles have 4 times the vitamin C, the essential vitamin that we need. We can't manufacture vitamin C ourselves. It's been clinically proven with double-blind, placebo trials on people that stinging nettles help reduce the symptoms of prostate cancer. The rhizomes, the underground stems, are what provide these medicinal benefits, not the aerial portions so much. You can make the stems into teas. Seasonal allergies can be alleviated with the aerial parts of the plant. Taking stinging nettle extract has shown to decrease certain inflammatory molecules associated with diabetes. Ingestion of stinging nettle decreases blood glucose levels and rebalances to an extent issues with over-oxidation inside of our bodies. Over-oxidation is responsible for a host of degenerative conditions. The best time to harvest stinging nettle, that it tastes good and the texture is better, and that you don't get stung, is when the plant is very young, early in the season, late winter, early spring. There's about a 6-week window, whenever the plant is about 2 inches tall or less. Once late April approaches, the plants are getting taller, the stinging hairs are maturing, and you're going to get stung. You can see the trichomes, the stinging hairs, in the young plant, but they won't sting you because they're not mature. the mature plant in July, August, September. You can still harvest portions of the plant, and the best part would be the tender growing tops, the most recent growth of the plant. You can eat them raw, but cooking is recommended. Also, steaming, boiling, or sautéing deactivates the sting. You can harvest the leaves in the summertime and dry them out, either with a dehydrator or in the sun, which also deactivates the sting, and then you can make tea with them. Early in the season, then, you can eat the plant very readily. Later in the season, you can harvest just the tips to eat, but the bigger leaves can be harvested, dehydrated, and made into a tea. The tea would be more the consistency of a soup, because it's very nourishing and medicinal. Stinging nettle is a good substitute for spinach. It has a brothy flavour to it, like cabbage. The best way to connect and learn with any plant is to ingest it, make it a part of your diet and medicinal strategy.
Thanks, Kevin. Fun stuff. I remember it growing in my backyard in the Bay Area, and I used to take the tender young shoots of the young plants and either boil it or steam it, cut it up, and add it to salads and soups and things like that. It's very good. As a tea, I remember, it's very green, so that deep green color indicates, a lot of minerals and vitamins. And like I said before, it grows in the Bay Area there to 3 up. I've seen it up to 4 feet there, and it does grow along the creeks and the woodlands. San Francisco Bay Area, there's a coastal range between the ocean and the Bay Area, which is like a valley. San Francisco, Santa Clara Valley. There's a valley. There's a 3,000-foot coastal range, and then there's the ocean. And in that coastal range, we have redwoods, and we have the bay laurels, we have oaks, we have all kinds of nettles there growing, manzanita. So I'm familiar with the nettle. I let it grow in my backyard and then propagated by itself. When I see some of that stuff, I let it grow because it's good stuff. It's good for the prostate for men. It's supposed to be one of those cures, for enlarged prostate, along with some other herbs, but that's one of them. And here in the community garden in Baja, I'm trying to get some too, because I have seen some, but I haven't been able to collect it yet. I'd like to introduce it to the garden and have it go wild here. And like you say, yeah, the boiling or the steaming takes the sting out of it, so you can eat it and not be harmed. So wonderful plant. Yeah, one of the best plants.
Hi,
Ryan.
Val.
Hi, Ryan.
I have a very different comment about this movie you told. I suddenly remember about one conversation where about the question, you have a post something about the water, and you told this in this post in the site. You told we have enough water for drinking, but the government shows something and do something that we have a very low water in the earth, and we in a bad situation. The people need to control something. People do something to control this water. When I see the river and the water can we drink about it, suddenly I remembered this, and I question about myself why the government and uh, the reptilian told this to people. What uh, take what situation about this, and what take the reptilian take some do something, what taking to the people and give it what giving things, and to we have a very low water in the earth. It is suddenly I remember about this, and my second comment about the one sentence says Kevin said about the color of the uh, tree when the purple the show the tree is very young and very needs to be growing and protect them to grow up. After that, uh, when they grow up and big and turn into the green, I suddenly remember something about when I was walking in a garden and see see the trees and in around of me. They have a different color, and remember me in this color, maybe something about this tree, maybe some sick, some happiness, sadness, or everything. I suddenly remember this two about the colors.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, about the water, the hydrologists are trained and educated a certain way in this idea about primary water, which is abundant under the earth, is almost like treated as a theory, not a fact. Whereas when you're educated, and they don't really pursue it, just like, well, that's a conspiracy, and they stop there. Or in school, they might cover part of it, but then they go on to their indoctrinated view of things. So it's even the scientists are not aware of many of the what's going on with the water situation. There's plenty of water for everybody. And then there's people like Paul Power, the Hungarian fellow up here in Northern California that's retired, that's drilled these primary water wells all over the world, Africa, California, South America, Mexico, everywhere. So he's proven that these wells can be drilled, and you have unlimited sources of water for irrigation and drinking, and it's pure water. It's not the water from the aquifers that's polluted many times. It's pure water that can be utilized, for anything. So no matter waking people up again to what's really going on. Now, your second comment, I didn't quite understand it. Maybe Kevin, did you understand the second comment that Ryan made?
Sorry about it if you understand very well. My second comment about the color of the trees. Any tree.
Okay.
I suddenly remember something when I was walking in our garden. Every tree has a special color. Someone yellow, purple, green, orange. And remember this, maybe this color about the feeling of the trees. Maybe they are sick, or they are happy, or they are sad. In this feeling recognized in the color of the tree, I will understand how that this tree talk to us with their colors.
Yeah, and the fall colors, as they lose their leaves in the fall, the deciduous trees turn yellow, orange, red. before they turn, after they've been green, and then they turn, and then they fall off. The trees are wonderful, how they are, how they communicate to us. In the mycelium, the root systems, how they're all interconnected. Did you have a question about it, or was it a comment, Ryan? Or is something you noticed?
And about something I'm feeling about these sentences. Kevin said about the purple and green. He told the purple when the tree is very young, and green when he's
yeah.
grow up. And suddenly I remember this and feeling this is something the tree talk about with us, with colors.
As they fill up with more chlorophyll when they get older, they get greener, I imagine. But yeah, you have any comments, Kevin, on that?
Well, all emotions would be a specific, unique frequency, and the same as colours are also specific, unique frequencies. And so you can have a colour very much on the same frequency as an emotion. And so what Ryan was saying in regards to the trees and the extent to which they are happy or sad or whatever they are trying to express, if they're expressing it through the colours of their leaves, then it's very possible you could even, if you analysed it or are able to map the frequencies, you could possibly determine the emotions that the plant is trying to express through the various colours of their leaves. And it's quite interesting, really, because on that, it reminded me, I saw a video not so long ago where an individual said there, I can't remember what country they're in, possibly China, but there was a type of tree that they called the singing tree, and it would actually be capable of learning tunes, and then it would, through the movements of its leaves, be able to produce the song to individuals that would sit beneath it. And it was very interesting because the tree was capable of determining whether its songs were being well received or not. And if it sensed that they were not, it would sing a different tune. And but if it determined that the individual was enjoying the tune, it would maintain it. And a lot of people said when they first approach the tree and they sit beneath its branches, the songs will begin, but very tentatively, as though the tree is a bit nervous about the song it's about to produce and how well it will be received. But then it seems to grow more in confidence, and then the song becomes more so. I'd have to look up the actual name of this tree, but it just goes to show that, that there's a lot more going on with plants than we realise.
Yeah.
And also,
Share that next week if you can find that.
Yeah, I'll try and find that about that as well.
Even a video, something. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Duane saying that psychic told him he was a tree. He had a really good lifetime as a tree. We've all been trees, animals, plants, but he had a particularly good lifetime as a tree. And think about being a tree. You're really grounded. You're just there. Could be a redwood tree, 500 years old. I mean, think of all the things just growing there, one place. You're not moving, but you're moving up, but moving down. But that consciousness, very interesting, being a tree, all the things that you're there, you're very much patience and, be interesting. We've all gone through it.
Once I had a real side experience where I was given the view from the perspective of a mountain, and that was a very expansive experience. And to be honest, during the experience, I remember thinking and considering that, to be honest, I wouldn't mind just being this mountain, is exactly as being just in a state of being connected with the real awareness without the baggage of the mind and the emotions, and simply just being and unaffected by all the struggles and tribulations of creation. Yeah.
What do you feel about hikers and mountain climbers? Is it tickle or what?
Well, don't know. I mean, as long as they don't defecate on me, I don't mind.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say briefly as well that when I spoke about the stinging nettles, I mean, it has been said that the eating stinging nettle and dandelion would give you a complete complement of everything you would require, mineral, vitamin, and electrolyte wise. But they do advise that although cooking would, is necessary, that you would eat a proportion of it raw, because when you cook and boil anything, you actually denature the electrolytes, and also the vitamins and minerals can be compromised as well. So it's important to eat it almost fresh off the bush, I think, as it were, because the longer it's sitting around, the more these minerals and vitamins start to denature, and all you have then is just a mass of carbs and sugars. So there's another thing I was going to touch on maybe in a future episode about these people who are breatharians, and I was always thinking to myself, well, in the face of the world, the situation as it is with starvation the world over, and the situations of people trying to be self-sufficient and survive, surely would not the ability to be a breatharian be a feasible option? And I actually went through a program of that myself a year or so back when I attempted to become a breatharian. There was a series of steps where you had to go through this process, and if at the other end of it you were successful, you would theoretically be able to not require food or water. But for me, it didn't work, and so I had to resort to going back to eating my pizzas and such. So.
Well, as you said in the beginning of the show, the oxygen, I mean, that too, if that's gone, then that doesn't, you'd have to come up with something else here too, but we can always work it out somehow. Okay. Anything else anybody has they'd like to bring up?
Well, the last thing I will say as well is when you were speaking about primary water, a lot of times when I went on some of my little camping expeditions myself, it was very easy. I mean, every forest you go into will have a water level, and all you have to do is to dig down only a matter of a couple of feet to find it. Then it will naturally fill up. So it's very easy to make a naturally occurring well definitely in a forest or a woodland.
Well,
and then obviously you'd have to purify the water or filter it, but water is more easily accessible and available than people realize as well.
Yeah, just have to know where to look. Here it's a little bit harder, but it's here. Northern Baja, there is more water. Southern Baja is quite dry. But yet, if you know what you're doing, like the primary water guys, you can find it. It's there, but you just have to use the divining rod or other technologies that they have. They have some pretty cool devices that they can find the fissures that they can drill through these fissures of the earth to find it and gather it, harvest it. Should probably do a show on that too. That's important. So let's sing the NUUU, and thank you all for being here. NUUU.
NUUU.
Ryan.
NUUU.
Okay, thank you everybody.